The road was almost empty that afternoon. The sun was strong but not angry, the kind that makes the air feel slow and heavy. A black luxury car moved smoothly along the highway, its engine soft and quiet, like it belonged far away from places like this. Inside the car sat a man in his early 40s. He wore a simple shirt and watch that looked ordinary to most people. But everything he owned was worth more than most houses in the town he was passing through. He had made his money early. Long nights, risky choices, years of pressure, he had survived all of it. These days, he didn't rush. Time worked for him now. He was driving alone after a business meeting that had ended sooner than expected. Flying felt tiring to him, so he chose to drive. He liked the silence. It gave him space to think. Then the silence broke. A strange sound came from under the hood. At first it was small, easy to ignore. A short rattle. He turned down the radio and listened. The sound grew louder. His forehead tightened. He slowed the car and pulled to the side of the road. The engine stopped completely. He sat there for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, staring ahead. He hadn't broken down in years. Life usually didn't do this to him anymore. He sighed, stepped out of the car, and opened the hood. He didn't really know what to look for, but he lifted it anyway, like that might help. A few meters ahead was a small auto repair shop. Very small. Just one old building with faded paint and a sign that looked like it hadn't been changed in years. A couple of cars were parked outside. Tools lay around, not neatly, but not messy, either used. Trusted. The man closed the hood and walked over. As he came closer, he noticed something that made him stop for a second. Instead of grown mechanics moving around, he saw a girl under a car. Her legs stuck out from beneath it. She wore old jeans, a loose shirt, and shoes with oil stains. Her hair was tied back quickly, not for style, but for work. She rolled out from under the car and sat up, wiping sweat from her face with the back of her hand. Her hands were dirty, black with grease. She looked up and noticed the stranger watching. "Yes?" she asked. Her voice was calm, not nervous. The man hesitated. He wasn't sure what he expected, but this wasn't it. She looked young. Not a child. But definitely not someone he imagined working full-time at a repair shop. "My car stopped on the road," he said. "About 10 minutes back." She stood up, brushing her hands on a rag. "I can take a look," she said. He raised his eyebrows slightly. "Are you the only one here?" She nodded toward the open door. "My uncle stepped out to get a part. He'll be back later. I can check it for now." He didn't say it, but the doubt crossed his face clearly. She noticed. People always showed it. She was used to it. Instead of reacting, she simply picked up a small toolbox. "Show me," she said. They walked back to the car together. She leaned under the hood like she'd done it 1,000 times. Her movements were careful and confident. She listened closely while he explained the sound the engine made. Then she asked him to turn the key. She listened again. "Give me a few minutes," she said. He stood to the side, checking his phone. No signal. He looked around instead. The place was quiet. A dog slept in the shade. An old man sat across the road, watching everything without speaking. After a while, she straightened up. "Your fuel line was loose," she said simply. "It happens sometimes. Is it serious?" he asked. "No," she replied. "I fixed it. You should be fine now." She wiped her hands again and stepped back. "That's it?" he asked. She nodded. "Try starting it." The engine came alive smoothly, strong, no sound, no shake. He looked impressed, though he didn't say it. "Thanks," he said. Reaching into his wallet, he pulled out a crisp $20 bill and held it out to her. It wasn't a lot to him. In his world, it was nothing. He expected her to smile, maybe say thanks quickly, but she didn't. She looked at the money. Then she looked at his face. Her expression didn't change. No excitement, no anger, just thought. "That's okay," she said quietly. He blinked. "It's for your work." She shook her head. "You can keep it." He felt confused now. "Why?" "I didn't do it for that," she said, her voice steady. "You needed help." "I helped." He laughed softly, thinking she was joking. "It's normal to get paid." "I know," she replied. "Just not like this." She stepped back, giving him space, almost like she was done with the conversation. Something about her answer made him uncomfortable. It wasn't rude. It wasn't proud. It was honest. "You sure?" he asked. She met his eyes. "Yes." He slowly pulled his hand back. For the first time that day, he didn't feel in control. There was something he couldn't buy here. As he turned toward his car, she spoke again. "Sir." He stopped and looked back. "Next time," she said, "if you want to help someone, don't start with what you think they're worth." The words hit him harder than he expected. He didn't reply. He just nodded once, got into his car, and drove away. But the road didn't feel quiet anymore. Something had changed, and he had a feeling this wasn't the last time he would see her. The man drove for nearly half an hour. Yet his mind refused to move forward. The road passed by. Trees, empty fields, a few houses, but none of it stayed with him. One sentence kept repeating in his head, clear and sharp. "If you want to help someone, don't start with what you think they're worth." He had met thousands of people in his life. Employees, partners, strangers asking for support, people thanking him for donations. But no one had spoken to him like that. No fear, no need. Just truth. He slowed the car and finally pulled over again. The engine was fine. Nothing was wrong with the road. Something was wrong inside him. He sat quietly, resting his head against the seat. When was the last time someone had refused his money? In his world, money ended conversations. It solved problems before they even started. People smiled when they saw it. They bent toward it. They thanked him for it. But the girl hadn't. She didn't even seem impressed by him or his car. She looked at him the same way she looked at the engine. With focus, not judgment. He checked the time. He wasn't in a rush. The meeting he was heading back from had made him millions, yet it felt meaningless now. After a few seconds of silence, he decided to turn the car around. The repair shop came back into view slowly. Nothing had changed. Same dog in the shade. Same quiet road. The girl stood near the building, washing her hands at an old sink outside. She noticed the car pulling in again and frowned slightly. Not annoyed, just curious. "Is something wrong now?" she asked as he stepped out. "No," he said quickly. "The car is fine." "Then why are you back?" she asked. He smiled awkwardly. "I guess I forgot how to leave things alone." She dried her hands and waited. She didn't rush him. That made it harder. "I keep thinking about what you said," he admitted. "About helping." She looked at him, studying his face. "People rarely listen," she said. "Most just hear." "That might be true," he replied. "So tell me, why did you return the money?" She leaned against the wall, folding her arms. "Because money can feel heavy when it comes before respect." He nodded slowly. "You think I disrespected you?" She shook her head. "Not on purpose. You just saw a girl with dirty hands and assumed something." "That's fair," he said. And for once, he meant it. She went quiet after that, like she had already said more than enough. "What are you doing here?" he asked gently. "I mean, why here?" "I work," she said simply. "I can see that," he replied. "But someone your age could be doing something else." She smiled faintly. "This is something else." He waited, sensing there was more. Finally, she spoke. "My father built this place," she said. "With his own hands." He fixed cars honestly. People trusted him. Her voice didn't shake, but her eyes changed. When he got sick, things fell apart fast. Bills, debts, promises that turned into threats. The man listened carefully. He hadn't planned on staying, yet here he was. "We lost everything," she continued. "The shop, the tools, even the sign. I was younger then, too young to fight for it." "And now?" he asked. "And now I'm old enough to work," she said. "So I do." He noticed how she said it without bitterness. Like work was not punishment, but direction. "So you fix cars to save money?" he asked. She shook her head. "Not just to save. To learn." "Every engine teaches something," he chuckled softly. "That's one way to look at it." She met his eyes. It's the only way that makes sense to me. He glanced at the building again. Faded walls. Cracked windows. A place forgotten by time. You want it back, he said. Yes. Because it wasn't taken fairly, she answered, and because it meant something. There it was. The reason she refused the money? Not pride. Purpose. He looked down at his shoes, suddenly feeling out of place. You don't look like someone who stops to help strangers, she said. He laughed quietly. What do I look like then? Like someone used to being listened to, she replied. He accepted that too. I've spent my whole life building things, he said. Companies, deals, systems. Then you should understand fixing things, she said. Her words landed softly, but deeply. A car pulled into the lot. An older man stepped out and nodded at the girl. Be right back, she said to the visitor, then walked over to the customer. The man stood alone again. He watched how people spoke to her. With trust. With ease. No pity. When she returned, he asked, What happens if you don't fix this place? She thought for a moment. Then I'll find another way. But I won't stop. Most people stop. She smiled slightly. That's why most people stay where they are. He felt something shift. A memory surfaced from decades ago. Long nights, cheap meals. His own hands shaking as he signed his first risky contract. Can I ask you something personal? He said. She hesitated, then nodded. Double quotes. Did you ever wish someone would just help you? She looked at him carefully. Help is not the same as rescue, she said. I don't want to be rescued. The words stayed between them. I think he said slowly that I owe you an apology. She raised an eyebrow. For what? For thinking $20 explained your effort. She didn't smile. She just nodded once. Thanks for listening, she said. He reached into his wallet again but stopped himself. Instead, he pulled out a business card and held it out. This isn't money, he said. It's just a number. If you ever want to talk, call. She looked at the card, then at him. Talk about what? About rebuilding, he answered, after a long pause. She took the card. I don't make promises lightly, she said. Neither do I, he replied. He walked back to his car once more. This time, the road felt different. Not quieter. Louder as he drove away. He realized something unsettling. He hadn't come back to give money, he had come back to understand. And that made all the difference. The night felt longer than usual. The city lights outside the hotel window blinked softly, but they did nothing to calm his thoughts. He sat at the small desk, jacket thrown over the back of a chair, staring at the business card he had handed to the girl only hours earlier. He had given out thousands of cards in his life. Investors, lawyers, government people, strangers hoping for an opportunity. Those cards often meant power, access, possibility. This one felt different. It carried weight. He leaned back and closed his eyes. Her voice returned again, clear and steady. The way she spoke about work, about fixing things, about not wanting to be rescued. He opened his laptop, not for business, but out of restlessness. His fingers paused over the keyboard. Then he searched the name of the town. It didn't take long. Small places never hide stories very well. He found old photos first. A low-resolution picture of the same repair shop taken years ago. The building looked younger then. Fresh paint. A clean sign above the door. In the corner of the image stood a man with grease-stained hands and a wide smile. He clicked another link. A short article appeared. Nothing dramatic. Just a local news post from years back. It talked about a trusted mechanic who had fallen sick. About a family struggling to hold on. About the shop closing quietly one winter. No anger in the article. Just facts. He kept reading late payments. Equipment sold. A loan that grew teeth by the time he closed the laptop. His throat felt tight. This wasn't a story she had created to sound strong. It was lived. The next morning, he drove back. Not because he planned to do anything specific. But because something inside him wouldn't let the moment end that easily, the repair shop looked the same in daylight, maybe even smaller. The paint peeled more clearly. The cracks stood out. She was all ready. There he noticed her bent over an engine before she noticed. Him, focused, quiet, like the rest of the world. Disappeared when she worked. She looked up and saw him watching. "You again," she said. "Not surprised. I hope that's not a bad thing," he replied. She wiped her hands and shrugged. "Depends what you came back for." Conversation, he said. She studied him for a moment, then nodded toward a bench outside the shop. "Sit," she said. "I'll finish this first." He sat. He watched how careful she was. Not rushing, not careless. Each move had meaning. She treated the machine like it mattered. After a while, she joined him. "You look tired." She said, "I didn't sleep much," he admitted. "Thinking." "Yes," she nodded like she expected that. "I looked up your father," he said carefully. She didn't react right away. Then she exhaled slowly. "Most people don't bother." "I wanted to understand," he said. "That can be dangerous," she replied. "Understanding makes you responsible." He smiled faintly. "I've avoided responsibility before. It never ends well." She leaned back, staring at the sky. "I learned early that no one saves you," she said. "They might help, but you still have to stand." He respected that she didn't dramatize it. "Do you ever get tired?" he asked. "Yes," she answered instantly. "But stopping feels worse." He nodded. "I know that feeling." He sat in silence. "Why do you really work here alone so much?" He asked. "I'm not alone," she said. "People come. People trust me. That counts." "It does," he agreed. A woman walked by and waved at her. A delivery truck slowed. The driver honked softly in greeting. The town saw her. That mattered more than money. "I've been thinking about something," he said. She waited. "If you had the shop back tomorrow," he asked, "what would you do differently?" Her eyes lit up without warning. "I'd keep it honest," she said. "Same prices. Same rules. No tricks, and grow it." Slowly, she replied, "Strong roots matter more than height." That answer stayed with him. "I once grew too fast," he said quietly. "Almost lost everything." She glanced over. "But you didn't." "No," he said. "Because someone believed in me before I believed in myself." She didn't respond, but her posture softened. "Would you believe me?" he asked. "If I said I don't want to hand you money?" She looked skeptical. "Then why are you here?" "Because sometimes the right help doesn't look like help at first," he said. She tilted her head. "That sounds like a deal." "No," he said quickly. "It's not." She crossed her arms. "I don't enter vague situations." "Fair," he said. "Then let's be clear." He paused, choosing his words with care. "Deals were easy. This was not. I want to see this place stand again," he said. "Not owned by me, not controlled by me." She studied his face intensely. "And why would you want that?" She asked. "Because it deserves to," he replied. "And because I think you already earned it." Her voice dropped. "People say things." "I know," he said. "That's why I won't ask for trust today." She rested her elbows on her knees. "Then what are you asking for?" "For time," he said. "Let me show you options. You decide." She smiled slightly. "You're patient for someone who looks important." "Importance is overrated," he answered. "Commitment lasts longer." She stood up. "I have work," she said. "I figured," he replied. She picked up her tools again, then stopped. "If this turns into pity," she said quietly, "I walk away." "Understood," he replied. "If it turns into control, I walk away too." That made her laugh. Just a little. He realized then that this wasn't about fixing a shop. It was about fixing how help was given. As he drove away later, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope that wasn't tied to profit. And somewhere behind him, the sound of tools hitting metal continued. Steady, honest, unstoppable. The next few days moved quietly. But something was changing. The girl noticed it first. Not around her, but inside her, she found herself replaying his words while she worked. Not because she trusted them, but because they didn't feel empty. He hadn't promised anything clear. He hadn't pushed. That alone was strange. She stayed busy. Customers came and went. Old cars, tired engines, people trying to save money by fixing instead of replacing. She treated every job the same. Way slow, careful, honest. Late one afternoon, she saw the black car again. This time she didn't stop what she was doing. She kept working, wiped her hands only after finishing, and then walked over. "You're becoming a habit," she said. "I'm trying not to," he replied. "But habits form when things matter." She watched him closely. "You said you wanted time," as he said, "and I'm using it to think properly." "That makes two of us," she said. He didn't step closer. Didn't offer anything. He just stood there. "I brought something," he said finally. She stiffened slightly. "If it's money, it isn't," he cut in gently. He reached into his bag and pulled out a folder. Old papers, but neat. He handed it to her without explanation. She opened it carefully. Inside were copies of records. Old leases, bills, transfers. Her fingers tightened around the pages. "You didn't need to do this," she said quietly. "I know," he replied. "But I wanted to understand what happened, not what people assumed." She flipped through the pages, recognizing pieces of her past laid out clearly. Loss written in numbers. Time stamped on paper. "They pushed us out," she said. Slowly, legally, ruthlessly. He nodded. "I've seen it happen." She closed the folder and handed it back. "I don't need a rescue," she said again. "I remember," he replied. "That's why I'm not offering one." She stared at him. "Then what are you offering?" He took a breath. "A structure," she frowned. "Explain." "The shop failed because it stood alone," he said. "No breathing room. No safety net." She crossed her arms. And I know how to build systems that let people work without fear," he continued. "You do the work. I make sure the ground stays firm beneath it." Silence stretched. "You want control?" she said finally. "No," he replied calmly. "I want sustainability." She laughed once, but without humor. "Those words sound the same when you've lost things." He accepted that. "I won't own it," he said. "I want to touch operations. I won't set prices. I won't change your way. Then what do you gain?" she asked. "I get to be useful," he said simply. That answer caught her off guard. "Powerful people don't usually say that," she said. "Powerful people hide behind other words," he replied. "I'm tired of hiding." She didn't respond right away. "Prove it," she said. "Tell me how," he replied. "Put it in writing," she said. "With limits. With exits." He nodded immediately. "That's fair. Within days." Papers were drafted. She read every line. Slowly, carefully. No rush. The shop would be restored under her direction. Ownership would remain hers after a defined period. Support would be temporary, transparent? No. Surprise conditions. She signed only after sleeping on it, not because she doubted him. Because she respected herself. Work began. Quietly, no big announcements. No photos, no noise. Materials arrived. Tools were repaired, not replaced with flashy upgrades. The walls were fixed first. Safety before beauty. She worked alongside workers sent to help, never stepping back. He visited rarely. When he did, he listened more than he spoke. "What do you need?" He asked once. "Time," she replied. He smiled. "I owe you plenty of that." The town noticed changes slowly, not luxury, stability. The shop stayed open longer hours. Customers returned without being called. Word traveled on its own. One evening, as the sun dropped low, she stood outside the shop and looked at the building. It didn't look new. It looked strong. He watched her from a distance. She hadn't asked for praise. She hadn't thanked him, and that told him everything. Because dignity. Once returned, doesn't need applause, as the tools echoed into the night. He understood something clearly. This wasn't generosity. It was partnership, and it had changed him more than he expected. The shop no longer felt like a forgotten place. It didn't look rich. It didn't try to impress, but it felt alive in a way it never had before. The doors opened early and closed late. The floors stayed clean, not because someone demanded it, but because the work mattered. People treated the space carefully. The girl barely noticed the change at first. She was too busy. Engines came in sick and left strong. Old customers returned with younger ones. A few people who had once passed the shop without stopping now waved as they drove by. Trust grew quietly, like roots underground. She stayed the same. She wore the same work clothes, ate quick meals, arrived before sunrise, and left when her hands finally refused to move. Her focus never shifted to profit alone. It stayed on fairness. The man watched from a distance. He came less often now. Not because he didn't care, but because he knew when to step back. He answered calls, signed papers when needed, cleared problems before they reached her. He'd never interfered with her. Decisions, that restraint became his biggest test. Months passed. One afternoon, a vehicle pulled in, driven by someone who looked unsure. The girl listened patiently, examined the problem, explained the cost honestly. The customer frowned at the price, then nodded. "Other places charge more," the customer said. "And some charge less," she replied. "But this is what it costs to do it right." The car stayed. The man stood near the back, unseen, listening. He smiled. Later that evening, she closed the shop alone. She turned off the lights and stood still for a moment inside the doorway. The quiet no longer felt lonely. It felt earned. She stepped outside and locked the door carefully. Across the street, the man waited. "You're late," she said when she saw him. "So were you," he answered. She leaned against the wall. "Tired but calm. Walk with me," he said. They moved slowly down the road. No urgency. No plans. "You did well," he said. "I didn't need you to say that," she replied. "I know," he said, "but I still wanted to." She accepted it with a nod. They stopped near a small bench. "The papers are almost done," he said. "The shop will be fully yours soon." She looked at him. "You kept your word." "So did you," he replied. She hesitated. "People like you don't usually let go." "I didn't let go," he said. "I stepped aside." There was a difference. A week later, on a quiet morning, she opened the shop earlier than usual. She carried with her a small envelope. The man arrived shortly after, confused by her message, asking him to come by so early. "You look serious," he said. "I am," she replied. She handed him the envelope. He opened it. Inside was a folded piece of paper and a familiar bill. A $20 note. His breath caught. He remembered the moment clearly. The road, the noise, the assumption. He unfolded the paper. It was short. Written carefully, it thanked him not for money, not for fixing the shop, but for listening. For learning how to help without standing above. For understanding that dignity matters more than kindness when kindness arrives too early. At the bottom, one line stood out. "You didn't change my future. You respected it." He closed his eyes. "I don't deserve this," he said quietly. "You do," she replied, "because you changed before anything else did." He handed the bill back. "No," she said firmly. That was the first lesson. He accepted it, gripping the paper tightly. They stood in silence. "I used to think helping meant fixing," he said. "Now I know it means standing close enough to protect, but far enough to trust." She smiled. "Truly this time, you learned fast," she said. "I had a good teacher," he replied. Later that day, he left town. No goodbye speech. No announcement. The shop continued, years later. People would talk about how the place survived when others didn't. Some would mention the man. Most wouldn't. She preferred it that way. The $20 bill stayed in a drawer in her office. Not as a reminder of money, but of a moment when someone chose humility over comfort. And the man carried that lesson with him long after. Because sometimes, the smallest refusal changes the largest life. Life did not slow down after that. It rarely does. The shop kept working through heat, dust, sudden rain, and long days, when nothing seemed to go right. Engines failed. Supplies arrived late. Some customers complained. Some doubted. The girl handled it all. Not perfectly, but honestly, when mistakes happened, she owned them. When work took longer, she explained why. People did not always like the answers, but they trusted them. And trust, once built, carried her forward. She hired help slowly, not based on speed, but on care. One worker stayed late without being asked. Another cleaned tools before leaving. A third treated customers like neighbors, not numbers. Those people stayed. Others left. She let them go without anger. Growth, she learned, was not about adding more. It was about keeping what fit. Sometimes, late at night, she sat alone in the office. The hum of cooling engines filled the air. She opened old drawers, old notebooks. Notes her father had written years ago. Short. Reminders, fix it right. Speak clearly, never rush trust. She smiled at those. The world outside the town kept moving. Fast, the man returned to his own life. Meetings resumed. Deals closed. Numbers grew. But something stayed different. He asked different questions, not just about profit, but about process, not just about speed, but about stability. People noticed some thought he was softening. Others thought he was losing his edge. They were wrong. He was gaining something harder to copy. Perspective. One afternoon, a young employee challenged him during a meeting. "That will take longer," the employee said. "It won't look impressive right away." He paused. "Good," he replied. "Let's build it anyway." The room went quiet. Months later, results followed. Not explosive, durable. He thought of the shop, back in the town. The girl faced her own test. A large company sent a representative, offering to buy the land. The numbers looked tempting. Life-changing, even. She read the proposal twice. Then a third time. She remembered the smell of oil, the sound of wrenches, the feeling of keys being placed on the counter with trust. She said no. Word spread. Some called her foolish. She stayed. Quiet that night, she took out the folded $20 bill. She didn't unfold it. She didn't need to. It reminded her that some things became smaller when sold, and larger when protected. The man heard about her decision weeks later through a shared contact. He smiled. She learned faster than most, he said. He wanted to call her, but didn't. Some growth deserves space. Years passed slowly and quickly, all at once. The shop trained others. Young people from nearby towns came to learn. Some stayed. Some moved on. She taught skills. But more than that, she taught standards. Once, a trainee asked her why she worked so hard. She thought for a moment. "Because work remembers how you treat it," she said. The trainee didn't fully understand. One day, they would. The man returned to the town quietly years later. No announcement. The shop now had a new coat of paint. Chosen carefully, not bright, not dull. Familiar, but stronger. He stood across the street. Watching, she didn't notice him until he stepped inside. "You're late," she said. Smiling. "So it seems," he replied. They talked briefly, easily. No old weight. No debt, just shared respect. Before leaving, he placed the $20 bill back in her hand. "This belongs here," he said. She nodded and placed it in the drawer as he drove away. He felt complete in a way success had never given him, because somewhere along the road, he had learned the true cost of dignity, and she had taught it, without ever meaning to. Time left its marks gently. The shop stood firm through seasons that tested patience. Hot summers where engines overheated and tempers rose. Cold mornings when tools felt heavy in the hands. Rainy weeks when less work came in. Worry tried to settle quietly. The girl learned something important. Stability was not silence. It was movement that didn't collapse. She kept learning. Not from books alone, but from mistakes that stung just enough to teach. A wrong part ordered. A delayed repair. A customer who didn't return. Each moment shaped her judgment. She never blamed anyone else. That earned her respect faster than success. One evening, a woman arrived with a car, coughing badly and eyes full of stress. She explained she depended on the car for work and could not afford much. The girl listened. Carefully, she checked the engine, explained the options, gave honest numbers. "I just need it to last," the woman said quietly. The girl nodded. "Then we'll do exactly that." She fixed what truly mattered and saved the rest for later. The woman cried not because it was free, but because someone treated her problem like it mattered. The shop had become that kind of place. News spread wider than before. Not online. By word of mouth, nearby towns began sending people. Others tried to copy the model and failed. They thought success was about prices or paint. They missed the center. The man watched these ripples from far away. He didn't interfere, but he changed. He began supporting quieter projects, ones without large headlines, ones where people led themselves. When asked why, he answered simply, "Because control doesn't last. Trust does." People questioned him. Some laughed. Results answered later, back at the shop. The girl faced a harder moment. A serious accident on the highway left many vehicles damaged. Work poured in at once. Pressure followed. She gathered her team. "We won't rush," she said. "We won't cut corners." Some feared losing business. She stood firm. "We fix things right, or we don't fix them at all." They worked day and night. Calmly, methodically, the work took longer. People waited, and they stayed when it ended. The shop was exhausted, but stronger. Late one night, she stood alone again, wiping her hands clean. She looked around the room and felt something new. Peace, not the quiet kind, the steady kind. Weeks later, a letter arrived, no return address. Inside was a short note. It thanked her for teaching lessons she never meant to teach, for reminding someone that dignity was not given but protected. At the bottom was no signature. She smiled. She knew. Years passed. The town changed slowly. New buildings appeared. Old ones closed. The shop stayed. It wasn't famous. It was trusted. One afternoon, a young girl stood watching her work, eyes curious. "You fix cars?" The child asked. "Yes," she replied. "On your own?" "With help," she said honestly. "But my hands do the work." The child smiled. That moment mattered. Much later, the man sat in an office filled with awards he'd barely noticed anymore. One framed item stood among them. A simple $20 bill, not displayed proudly, displayed. Quietly, it reminded him of the day someone refused money and offered truth instead. He touched the frame. Lightly, that refusal had changed how he saw the world, and in a small town. An honest shop continued doing something simple and rare, treating people like they were worth more than assumptions. That was the real story. Not about wealth, but about value. And it kept going, long after the moment that started it. Some stories do not end with a final moment. They soften instead. The shop became a quiet landmark. People gave directions using it. Taxi drivers mentioned it without thinking. Travelers stopped there even when nothing was wrong with their vehicles, just to ask for advice or rest for a minute. The girl noticed this change more than any number on paper. She noticed how people trusted her words. Before her hands even touched their cars, how they explained problems slowly, knowing they would be heard. How they waited without anger. Trust had shaped the place into something larger than its walls. She did not let it turn her careless. Each morning still began the same way. Doors unlocked. Tools checked. Notes reviewed. Routine grounded her. One afternoon, a man arrived in a clean suit, shoes untouched by dust. He looked around with the habit of someone measuring value. "I heard this place runs differently," he said. It runs honestly, she replied. He smiled politely. Honesty and growth rarely sit together. She wiped her hands. They do if you're patient. He talked about expansion, franchises, faster money. She listened carefully and then declined. You'll regret staying small, he warned. She answered calmly. I'm not small. I'm focused. He left unconvinced. She returned to work that evening. She felt tired in a way sleep would not fix. She sat alone, watching shadows move across the walls. Growth brought weight too, expectations, responsibility. She breathed slowly. This was the cost of meaning, far away. The man faced a quieter battle of his own. Success no longer excited him the way it once had. Not because it disappeared, but because it felt complete. He had learned to notice the difference between more and enough. He began mentoring younger leaders, who reminded him of himself eager, fast, hungry. He told them fewer strategies and more stories. Most listened politely. A few understood. Years later, he returned once more to the town. No reason given, no announcement. He parked and walked. The shop door opened. She looked up and smiled naturally. Without surprise, you came back again, she said. I wanted to see if it still felt the same, he replied. And it feels stronger, he said. They stood together quietly. I never thanked you properly, he said. You didn't need to, she answered. I did, he replied. Because you taught me what support really looks like, she nodded, accepting that. Outside, a young worker helped a customer patiently. Inside, tools rested where they belonged. This was the proof. Before leaving, he asked one question. If someone stood here years from now, what would you want them to feel? She thought carefully that they're safe to be honest. She said. He nodded slowly. As he walked away, she returned to her work. No ceremony. No pause. Just motion. The $20 bill remained tucked away, rarely seen. Never forgotten. Not because of what it was, but because of what it had. Refused to become. Somewhere between pride and humility. A balance held, and that balance kept moving engine by engine. Person by person, long after the road, where it all began, faded into memory. The road stretched long and quiet under the afternoon sun. Dry wind passed over the pavement, carrying dust and the smell of hot metal. A black luxury car moved smoothly through the small town, standing out against the old houses and roadside shops. Inside the car sat a man who had grown used to comfort. He did not rush. He did not worry much anymore. Years ago, every decision felt heavy, every mistake dangerous. Now most things felt controlled, planned, solved before becoming problems. He had chosen to drive instead of fly. Sometimes silence helped him think. Sometimes it reminded him of who he used to be. Without warning, the car jerked slightly. A sharp sound came from the engine, followed by a dull rattle. He frowned and slowed down. Another sound followed. Louder this time. Not today, he muttered. He pulled the car to the side of the road. The engine stopped completely. For a moment, he just sat there. His fingers rested on the steering wheel. The air inside the car felt too still. He checked the dash again, even though he already knew. The car was not moving. He stepped outside. Heat wrapped itself around him. He opened the hood and looked inside like that might magically explain everything. It didn't. A short distance away was a small repair shop. Old sign, faded paint. One open door. He closed the hood and walked toward it. As he got closer, he heard metal clinking. Tools hitting the ground. Someone humming quietly. He stopped. Under a lifted car lay a girl. Her legs stuck out. Her shoes were worn. Oil stains colored the ground beneath her. She slid out from under the car and sat up, pushing hair away from her face with the back of her hand. Her hands were black with grease. She noticed him watching. Yes, she asked. Her voice was calm. No nervousness. No surprise. My car broke down, he said. Back on the road? She stood, wiped her hands on a cloth, and nodded. I'll check it. He hesitated. Is anyone else here? My uncle will be back later, she replied. I can handle it. There it was, the doubt it showed on his face before he could hide it. She noticed. People always thought work like this belonged to someone else. Someone older. Someone louder. She picked up her tools without saying a word. "Show me," she said. They walked back to the car. She leaned into the engine carefully, listening. He explained what happened. She nodded, focused. "Try starting it," she said. He turned the key. The engine coughed and stopped. "Give me a minute," she said. He stepped aside and waited. The town felt still. An old dog slept near the shop. A man across the road watched everything without speaking. After a few minutes, she straightened up. "Your fuel line came loose," she said. "Nothing serious." She tightened something with quick, practiced movements. "Start it now." The engine came alive smoothly. He looked surprised. "That's it?" he asked. She nodded. "You're good to go." "Thank you," he said, reaching into his wallet. He pulled out a $20 bill and held it toward her. She froze. She looked at the money. Then at him. "That's not necessary," she said. He thought he misheard. "It's for your work," he said. She shook her head. No, he felt confused. "Why not?" "Because I helped," she replied. "Not everything needs a price right away." He laughed softly. "This is how things work." "Not always," she said. There was no anger in her voice, just certainty. He slowly lowered his hand. She wiped her hands again and stepped back. For the first time in a long while, he didn't know what to say as he turned toward the car. She spoke again. "Sir," she said. He looked back. "When you help someone," she said steadily, "see them first. Then decide what to give." He stood still. Those words stayed with him as he drove away. The road felt different, and somehow so did he.